And we're back with a quick tutorial on the skills tree. Well, hopefully relatively quickly. This skills system ties into priorities, decor, morale, rooms, all of that, so I'll try and keep it brief. The first thing to realize is it costs you 1 morale to get one of these skills in the first row, 2 morale for the next row, 3 for the next, 4 for the next, etc., etc. But the main bonus to these is not the +2 digging or the +2 construction you get out of purchasing these. The main bonus is they give your dupes abilities that they couldn't have before. The +2 is just a bonus. For example, very firm material mining allows your duplicants to mine granite, which allows you to leave your starting biome on most of the maps. Level 2 digging gives you abyssalite mining, which means you can get into pretty much every biome on most maps, outside of Badlands, because Badlands is a nightmare. And then you get diamond and obsidian mining at level 3. That's the main benefits of going down this path. You don't need all your duplicants to get it. In fact, most of these skills, your duplicants don't need all of them. They only need a few to do their jobs effectively. Duplicants that do digging will get better at it. Duplicants that do construction will get better at it. In fact, construction here, the only reason I'm putting this duplicant into it is there was nothing really else to get. But we'll cover more on that later. Construction does not actually give you any bonuses bar the +2 construction. Improved farming, kind of pointless, but you do need it to get improved crop tending. Crop tending allows you to use the micronutrient fertilizer crafting station, the thing that speeds up crop growth by 2. That's useful. Critter ranching you need just to get animal husbandry. You can't wrangle a critter. You can't do anything with critters unless you have critter ranching Mark 1. Critter ranching Mark 2 just gives you +2 to animal husbandry. This is unfortunately still very, very useful because as it currently stands, you cannot improve animal husbandry on your dupes by default unless they hug eggs. Hugging eggs in the incubators, they do that once a cycle, and it's incredibly slow because they only will hug the incubator once per cycle. So even if you have 2 or 3 incubators running, they're not going to get an awful lot of experience. So for that purpose alone, you do actually want to get critter ranching. The +2 animal husbandry gives a 10% increase in groom duration or 10% of the day. If you can get a duplicant up to +10 critter ranching, it doubles their effectiveness. So this is very important. Grilling, if you don't have grilling, you can't actually use the grill. This sort of ties in with the priority system. If you're only using the grill and you're not using the micromusher, any duplicant can use a micromusher. But if you're only using the grill or better, then duplicants will have to be trained before they can use it. So you kind of messes with the priority system a bit. Art fundamentals. This is very simple. Don't, yes. Wait until you have masterwork. Once you have masterwork, put down art. Anything before that is a waste of time because you will have to rip it up. Decor is just so hard to get up very high that you're better off just waiting until you have masterwork. And you can wait. Advanced research. First level gives you supercomputers. Second level gives you access to geographical analysis, as in you can analyze geysers and vents to figure out their dormancy period, which is very, very useful. And astronomy gets you the virtual planetarium, which means you can do the research for planets or planetary research. You need this as well. There's no way around it. Improved carrying +400 carry capacity. That's the equivalent of +10 strength. Yeah, so you're going to be getting that for every single duplicant. This is the equivalent of +20 strength, so you're going to be getting that for every duplicant. And this gives you exosuit training, which is very, very important. I'll cover that in a minute. Actually, one last thing. Yeah, the strength bonuses here effectively make the strength stat almost useless on your dupes. Well, getting these two is the equivalent of having +30 strength on your dupe. Getting a dupe with +7 strength at the start is a waste of resources. You're always going to be getting this. I mean, it will help you at the beginning before you have the spare skill points to put everyone into improved carrying, but by cycle 40 or 50, strength has become a useless strat because these have beaten it. Electrical engineer, this tinkering improved electrical engineer and mechatronics engineer. The mechatronics engineer you will definitely be getting because it allows you to build conveyor rails, the auto sweepers, everything to do with the automation setup, and they're incredibly useful at saving you time. You will be getting mechatronics engineer. I'm pretty sure you need electrical engineer to even build some of the late game power generators like petroleum generators and steam turbine. You need to have this skill. Oh, actually, I can't remember if it's this one or this one. You know what? You will be getting mechatronics engineer anyway. That's why I don't remember for sure. You will be getting mechatronics engineers. Incredibly important. Medicine, I haven't found very useful. If you're playing on the hardest difficulty setting, it might be important to get medicine. But on the lower difficulty levels, sickness is usually only a stress enhancer. It causes stress problems, not actual crippling, base destroying problems. Plumbing is improved strength and plumbing. These are more of a side stat that is useful. You do want the plumbing, and I normally, if my dupes have the spare morale, I will always get them improved strength and plumbing, just for the +4 strength it's going to give them to have both of those. So all of that said, this system is more about getting your duplicants abilities that are useful rather than improving their stats. The improved stats is fine, but let's say, where's Dog's Body 1? Here we are. Their cuisine is 14. They are my only cook, and they have 10 cuisine as a natural skill, and they've got +4 from the grilling and grilling +2. That's what's getting them the most resource, the most skill is actually doing the job repeatedly again and again. Except for ranching, of course, which we've already covered. So most of your duplicates will get better at their jobs and will get far more skill points from actually doing the job than the skill points they're going to get out of here. This is more about gaining abilities that will help you, like improving your carry capacity and things like that. Exosuit training is the only one that's a bit weird. If your duplicant tries to use an exosuit and they do not have exosuit training, they will get a -6 to their athletics. And for that reason alone, you can't let them out of the base. You can't let them into an exosuit. If you let them into an exosuit while they do not have exosuit training and they're a new duplicant, this is really important with new duplicants, they'll run out here and, well, they'll slowly waddle out here and go off to do some job over here. And then when lunch is called, they will not have enough time on their schedule to get back to base, eat, use the bathroom, and go to sleep. They just will not be able to do it. In fact, their sleep pattern may have passed by the time they get back to the exosuit airlock. For that reason, what you want to do is lock them in the base and usually have them work inside the base until they've skilled up. Preferably, I like to stick them on a treadmill. They run around, they improve their athletics, it improves their tinkering, and at the same time, it will generate experience for them. And that experience allows them to buy up the skill points necessary to get into exosuit wearing. So we'll see machinery 4 here. That's the first thing I got them into was exosuit training. By mid-game, everyone, the first thing they'll go for is exosuit training before you even let them out of the base. Then you can skill them up on whatever their relevant skills are. Now, next up is rooms. You need morale to have all of these, and morale can be got in a variety of ways. First one, we're going to cover those rooms. You've got your barracks. Your barracks will give you +1. Your plumbed bathroom, your regular bathroom will give you +1 as well, morale. Washrooms will give you +2 morale. The dining hall, which is the basic dining area, that'll give you +3 morale, and the great hall will give you +6. Then you've got nature reserves, they give you +3 or +6 depending on how many plants you have. If you have 2 plants, it's +2 morale. If you have 4 plants, it's +6. You, however, will need pips to acquire them. You need the pips to actually plant the plants in here. If you don't have a pip on your map, you'll have to wait till you get one, and you'll have to make sure you leave behind some natural tiles. If you don't have natural tiles, you can't plant plants. Also be aware of letting them get stifled. If they overheat, I don't believe the plants count for the nature reserve bonus. So all up, you get +6, +6, +2, +1. That's 12, 13, 14. That's 15 morale you can get from the rooms in a relatively short space of time, relatively early in the game. Now, you can put in plastic beds. The plastic beds allow you to upgrade your bedrooms to private bedrooms, which will give you an extra +1 morale. However, it takes up more space to put in those beds, which means the rooms end up having less decor in them, which usually hurts your ability to get morale in. I would not recommend upgrading to beds until you've got your morale sorted or your decor sorted. Decor can give you +12 morale. Upgrading to plastic beds will give you an additional +1. They're not worth the effort for what you have to go through to get them in there. Every time you put a duplicant into one of these skills, they'll get a negative to their morale, unless they've got this little heart symbol here. That heart symbol means that duplicant has an interest in that skill, and they will gain +1 morale for learning it. However, they still get the negatives. So this duplicant here has all 3 of these skills, -1 for this, -2 for that, -3 for that. So it's a -6 morale total for this. However, since they have an interest, they gain +1 morale, +1 morale, and +1 morale. So the total negative to them is -3. The point being here, what I'm trying to get across here is don't worry too much about the interest. The amount of morale you're saving is kind of minuscule compared to the amount you're going to be generating. I usually try to get my dupes to have at least an interest in one thing I'm going to be putting them into. So machinery dupes, I try and get them improved tinkering. This one was great. I got improved tinkering and supply, which is an amazing catch. This one is also a tinker dupe, so they'll have machinery is all I really needed. The advanced research is pretty much a waste. Just try and get them one interest. The default interest is always going to be improved carry. So if you can get supplying on any dupe and nothing else as an interest, that's perfectly fine. How do your duplicates gain skill points? They gain skill points by working at a job. And when I say working at a job, going to and from the job doesn't count. They'll still gain a little bit of experience even if they're doing nothing, but they gain a lot more experience if they're working at something. So a duplicant that's walking towards a dig operation won't gain much experience, but when they get there and start digging, that's when they start gaining more experience. The fastest way in general to gain experience is to stick your duplicants on a treadmill. The reason being there's no travel time once they're on it, and once they're on it, they'll just stay on it and keep running away. Theoretically, they won't be able to beat out the experience gain you'd get from doing other jobs. Some jobs have a higher experience multiplier for doing them. It's just the travel time back and forth between doing the job and areas where it's going to happen that cause you the problem. Additionally, if your duplicant, say this duplicant has tinkering, they like tinkering, so doing a tinkering job will cause them to gain experience faster, and they'll level up they'll get more skill points faster. So having a duplicant with tinkering, sticking them on a treadmill, they'll rapidly gain some skill points. That's very useful early on. Well, mid game, I should say. The hats that your duplicates can acquire, they do nothing. They literally do nothing. They're just there to designate what they are. That's all it does, I'm afraid. The main thing to be concerned about is getting stable morale. Stable morale is a case of your duplicates will get it every single cycle, regardless of pretty much everything else. If you say give them food, food allows you to generate morale depending on the quality of the food. You may occasionally get instances where you get large quantities of barbecue just because you found a bunch of critters or there was some culling going on. However, you then have to switch back to say bristleberry or something with a much lower morale requirements. If you accidentally put your dupes above the skills, they're going to stress out. So try and get stable morale. That's the most important thing to have. Rooms give you the most stable morale possible because your duplicates will always use the bathrooms, they'll always use the dining hall, and they will always use the barracks, assuming you give them enough downtime. If you don't give them enough downtime, they'll start skimping on either food or the bathroom. That can cause you morale problems. So make sure you keep your scheduling well, give them enough downtime to get back to base. If you notice your dupes are starving despite you having food, check your scheduling. Other ways to gain morale are the jukebox, arcade cabinet, espresso machine, and water cooler. Water cooler just gives one duplicant the chance per shift. So long as you have your scheduling spread out, one duplicant can use that and gain +1 morale. It's not really worth it. The only reason you use water coolers is to get the Great Hall bonus. That's it. Espresso machines are okay, but they do require pepper nuts and water to function. The power requirements aren't that bad. It's just only one duplicant can use it at a time, as far as I'm aware, which means only one duplicant per shift will get that bonus. The arcade machine is pretty good. That means two duplicants can use it at the same time, and it gives a pretty reasonable morale bonus. I think it's +3, or is it +4? Hmm, whatever. Then you've got the jukebox. Jukebox is my preferred one. It only gives +2 morale to the duplicants, costs 960 watts, but I think about 4 or 5 duplicants can use it at a time, which means it's very useful if you've got large shifts. I like to keep my dupes well below their theoretical morale maximum. This research dupe here, one of my dupes here has 37 morale. A dupe in the same base only has, say, 27. Where's my lowest? 23. So try to keep an eye on what's the lowest morale you've got coming in, and then try not to put your dupes above that. Always look at the lowest one. For example, that dupe's at 24, and I'm a little bit worried now because I've seen that 23 in there. Always look at the lowest morale of all your dupes, and that should be your maximum target. Never put your dupes above that. This is just because occasionally you're going to get blips like this, and that will stress out the dupe and can cause you issues if you're not paying attention. I don't want my dupes having a stress reaction and breaking a water tank open or something like that. Target only what you need. Most of these things are just, it's not to do with the skills you'll get. It's to do with, it's not to do with the attribute. It's to do with the skills they provide, as in the ability to dig different materials, the ability to ranch critters, the ability to grill or do art, or that's the main reason you're coming in here to get these skills. You don't need to max out all the trees to get a really perfect dupe. Specialize the duplicant, only get them the skills they need in the task they're doing, and it's perfect. For example, this rancher here, I don't even know what to get them next. They've got ranching, they've got improved carrying and exosuit training, and they've got plumbing. All they will be doing all day long will be ranching critters and carrying them resources. That's it. They've got no other stats, so getting any of these other abilities is almost pointless. I might get them some advanced research just to improve their skill gain. That's it. That's the only thing else that's worth getting here for this duplicant, which means their morale will probably never go above about 20, 22. Think of it this way. Does the dupe need the skill to do their job? If they don't need it, don't bother getting it. One other way to get emergency morale, and I say emergency because I'm going to stress this here, is to give them extra downtime slots. Every downtime slot above 1 will give them +1 morale. For example, we'll do this. They have 0 morale with 1 downtime slot because you have to give them at least 1 downtime slot. Giving them an extra 1 gives them +1, +2, +3, +4. That's the max though. That's the maximum amount of morale you can get. And it should only be used in emergencies. If you're giving them extra downtime slots, you're getting less productivity out of the duplicates because they won't be working during that slot. So as you see, add on more downtime does nothing. So I like to only give my dupes the required amount of downtime to get back to base. This will vary depending on the time of the game. Early in the game, 2 downtime slots is usually fine, but later on, you're going to want to give them more downtime. Anyway, that's skills as best as I can explain it. I know I'm leaving out quite a bit. It's just there's way too much to cover. the skills tree is interconnected with, well, you need morale, which brings in decor, also brings in food, because food food is one of those things that gives you pluses to morale as well, depending on what you have. It brings in the jukeboxes, the arcade cabinets, it brings in the rooms, it brings in the nature reserves. It brings in such a large amount of the game. It's really hard to explain it just quite succinctly. As well as that, it also affects stress, because if you have high morale, it decreases stress. If you have low morale, it increases stress. But I'll do something on the stress system later. Anyway, I hope that was at least mildly consistent or coherent, and good luck.